Hey guys, welcome to episode 2 of the Java programming series. And today we're going to be learning how to represent anything in the real world inside Java. Okay guys? And this might seem pointless to you because you're not going to get any results, but it will soon become very, very useful to you. Alright? So, first things first. In Java, everything in the real world can be represented. And everything in the real world is an object. You must agree with that, okay? If you don't understand that, then you're not going to be able to understand anything else. So, for example, I have an Xbox controller next to me. Pick it up right now. And this Xbox controller is an object. Pretty sure you guys agree. Wish I could have showed you it, but its color is white, and to describe what its color is, what will you define color as? What kind of component of the object is color? Well, it's kind of easy because it's an attribute, or like something that's associated with the object in order to give it characteristics. Okay? So, my Xbox controller is white. It's made by Microsoft. Has a whole bunch of buttons on it. And those are also part of the object. And them themselves are also objects. Okay? So, let's begin. And maybe we want to represent my Xbox controller. So, in order to represent anything in the real world, we must represent it through a class. And what class means is like it's to classify, which means kind of like define or create, just like specify all the attributes that a certain object has. And also something called a method, which is anything an object can do. So my Xbox controller can turn on and off. That's something it can do. A lot of objects have stuff they can do, and a lot of objects have attributes. Not all objects have attributes, and not all of them have stuff they can do. So, for example, my floor, okay? It's wood. That's the material it's made out of. That's an attribute. It's yellowish. That's another attribute. But it can't do anything. Maybe if I made it cool, I can make it slide out and create a trap hole inside my house, but other than that, it's not going to do anything. So, yeah, I'll give you an example for that. Anyway, let's get back to the Xbox controller. I'm going to talk to you guys about something called conventions, and just think of conventions as expectations or practices which must be met in order to maintain a relatively good environment, and an environment that's easy to understand and read. And all these conventions aren't sought out by me, but they were thoroughly thought through, which I don't really agree that that's I don't want to say it in front of you guys because it's going to make you lose respect of Oracle, so don't worry. But they were thought out by Oracle, and they usually work the best. I have a bit of variations, but I'm going to be teaching you the official Oracle conventions, okay? Anyway, for class naming, I do not have variations. All words must, or not words, well, the name of classes must be in camel case, and that's the uppercase camel case. And this is lower case. Close, camel close. No, camel case. Good. And in lowercase camel case, which I'm going to show you, there's a use for this also. You start the first word with a lowercase, and then all the words after that are uppercase. So if we had another word, like example, that would be uppercase as well. Uppercase camel case is you start all the words with a capital, and that's it. We can add example on also. Okay? So all classes are in upper camel case. Now we don't want to call the class camel case. We want to make it something that's descriptive, something that's relative to the Xbox controller. So why not just Xbox controller? Great. We have an Xbox controller here. So let me explain what this means, because if you've never saw anything like this before, you might be flipping out. So let me explain. Public. This let me think. Okay. This is like access. It's access towards the class. So it's an object that you can set access to whatever else in your program has access to that object. If that makes sense to you. So let me provide an example for you. Say this Xbox controller, this specific one, I don't want my sisters using, and it would be a private object and therefore not available publicly. But say I have like a spare Xbox controller, I don't really care who uses that, it's going to be public. So just think of this keyword public as allowing everybody to access it, allowing everything in your program to access it. Okay? Class just states like what is this file? That's pretty much it. What is this file? And it's a class because it classifies an object, defines an object. And then this is our name, the name of the object. And now I'm going to talk about syntax. So first of all, we have to note that this is an open curly bracket and this is a closed curly bracket, okay? So all open curly brackets must also have a matching closed curly bracket. And everything in between, which is this space right here, everything in between these two, the opening and closing, is called a block. Okay? Not like a block, but a code block. Okay? Hope you can understand that. And this is just pretty much saying like, oh yeah, this is going to be public, it's going to be a class, so it's going to classify something, and that's the name. And then now we're going to be like opening up a vortex or something crazy like that. We're going to be opening up a vortex to define all the attributes, behaviors, etc. related to the Xbox controller. Alright? And you must end it by, putting in a closed curly bracket. So hopefully you guys get that off the bat. Alright? So inside Xbox controller, we talked about the color. So I don't want to get you guys so confused, but the color is going to introduce you guys to something that you ought not to learn right now. So instead, as a replacement for that attribute, I'm going to be doing buttons. Alright? First off, to define attributes, you must specify what type of data those attributes are. So there's a couple types of data which I'll be showing you guys during the whole series, but anyway, the most commonly used type of data, in my opinion, and probably in a lot of other people's opinion, is the int. So that's a sweet type. We just type int. It stands for integer. And if you're watching this video, I hope you've taken an algebra class of some sort, and I hope you know what an integer is. It's not a decimal, not a fraction. It can be negative, positive, etc. Okay? All you have to know. So it's a number. Just think of it like a number that's not a decimal. Okay? And because we're not ever going to have buttons, we're not going to have 2.5 buttons on our controller. I hope not. Big problems. But anyway, then we get to name it. Integer, that's the type. Then buttons is the name. And that's it. And after you define anything, you can set it equal to a value. So, let me count how many buttons I have on the front face of my controller. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 on the front face. So we'll just use that throughout the whole video. Doesn't really matter. There's actually probably 14 or something on there, but whatever. And anyway, you can set it equal to the value 7. Now you're wondering, oh, what is that? What is that little semicolon doing there? Think of it like a line break. It breaks a declaration. So I'm declaring that this object called Xbox controller has an attribute that is the data type integer and it's equal to 7. So since I just declared something, made something actually happen, because this stuff does nothing, well, it does stuff, but it does nothing when the program is running, we're going to have to declare this, and all declarations need an ending. At the end of the line, it needs to end with a semicolon. Okay? So now that we've got the buttons, everything's all good. That's about it. So, all Xbox controllers have buttons. So, let me introduce you guys to a few other of our friends, a few other data types. So, about the color. Remember I told you guys that it's white? Well, we can't represent that with a number. That would be kind of, I don't know, a bit weird. So, we're going to represent that with an object itself. All objects, I remember, all classes, they're always in upper camel case. So, as you saw, I just typed in string. I'm defining an attribute that is another object. And you can have that. You can have attributes that are other objects inside your actual object that you're defining. So, my Xbox controller has another object, which is called a string, inside of it. And let me just write what this is so you guys can understand. Oh, not white. Color. Or I'll do color for international purposes. And I'll set it equal to white. Now let me explain this. What is a string? Well, think of it like a compilation of a whole bunch of characters. What are characters? W, H, I, 1, 2, 3, etc. Okay? And think of a string as putting them all together in a string. So you're putting a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of threads into a string. You understand now? Well, I hope you do. Anyway, this is an object itself. So this is another class, actually. And from inside, it just has objects which make the entire whole. And this is an object that's built into Java. The object isn't something you have to make every time, it's built in. Same with int, that also has a class also has a class, etc. And as I showed you before, buttons, which is another attribute, is named, and so is color. And we set it equal to white, okay? But you're probably wondering, oh, why are we setting it equal to these little two things on the side? Well, in order to create strings, well, define strings, at any point, you always need to surround them with quotations. And before we get into further detail, I know you guys are going to have some questions, but there are ways to get a quotation mark inside the quotations, so we get messed up. So you have it like that. Oh, look, Eclipse is all like, ooh, you made a mistake, ha ha ha. So in order to fix this, you have to use a, why did I just forget it? Anyway, well, you have to put a backspace there. It's called an escape character. It comes into my head whenever I feel like it coming to my head. But you just have to put a backspace there, and this doesn't mean that. It means just that. No, just that. Okay? Hopefully you guys can understand this. So anyway, now let's talk about behaviors. So, if we're talking about behaviors, we're going to have to understand that behaviors are anything that an object can do. So, maybe we just want a behavior that's going to show us these values, right? Because we want to know. We want to know, what are these values? Just to make sure it works. So, first off, to define a behavior, I'll do it first. Okay, don't flip out yet, okay? First of all, void. A lot of you guys apparently don't know what that means, but it means, in English, means nothing. It just means like emptiness, nothing, zero, nada, okay? This is what this method will be producing or creating, and by doing like any behavior that an object has, it can produce stuff, okay? So Let me give you an example of that, of producing stuff. Say you have a behavior for a calculator that calculates the sum of two numbers, right? Well, it can produce two numbers, okay? But as for now, I'm not going to show you how to produce stuff. And void means it produces nothing, and you don't have to specifically tell Java that, oh, we're producing this, because it's never going to produce anything, because it's a void. That's the production type. You can make this int, string, etc. You can make it anything you want, any kind of data type or object. And then this is the name, show values, and then this is the part where people get questions about. It's the open and close parentheses. Okay, this is an area where you take in, I don't know if I should explain this, but I'll do it anyway. This is the area where you take in arguments, and think of arguments like what is specified specifically to that behavior. I know that sounds confusing, but think of it like, I don't know. So you had a behavior called, oh, I know, find the sum, right? You want to find the sum of two numbers. Well, those two numbers would have to come from somewhere, and you don't want to attach them to your object. You just want to use them only for the behavior, right? So you can put them right inside there the same way you do as anything else. So int number 1, and then you separate by a comma to make another one, just like that. Okay? And then these two stuff is used just like, well, those two are used just like this. You can access them from anywhere you want inside this behavior. So since we don't need any of that stuff to show the values, what we're going to do is we're going to use another built-in class called system. That's like the actual Java system. And by adding a dot onto anything, Eclipse uses IntelliSense to tell you a whole bunch of stuff that's a part of that you can access, okay? And we're going to want to use the output stream. And think of the output stream like it's a way in order for you to communicate to the console. And you're going to output stuff or show stuff to a user. That's the stream you want. And then this stuff should be a little bit easier. Well, not that. Should be a little bit easier, but you see, there's a whole bunch of stuff to print, and then there's this thing called println. That's print format, in case you didn't know. But this is what we're concerned with right now. Println, it means print line. Okay? So you can choose them from in here. I generally just write them out. But we're going to want to print a string. And what we're going to want to write is buttons. Well, the Xbox controller has, and now you're like, whoa, how do we put buttons here in there? Do we just do like that, buttons, or what? No. You want to include the space too. You close the string. That's one string. You do a plus, and this is something called concatenation. And concatenation is a process of combining two strings. And I combine them two together, or two values. And plus buttons, the value of buttons. It's going to be 7. And then another plus, and then a period to finish it off, to look all cool. You don't really need the period there, but just wanted to show you that, guys, for general purposes. And we'll do the same thing for the color. The Xbox controller is the color, and then color. Great. Now, how are we supposed to make this work? That's where you're asking, right? You want to do stuff now. Well, now I'm going to have to explain crazy stuff to you. And get ready to get freaked out, because this is actually what most people explain first. But this is what I'm going to be explaining to you. Oh, no problem. Oh, we saw that before, right? Right, guys? So, yeah. Anyway, I don't want to explain anything in it to you right now. But all I'm going to tell you is this: when you run your program, this is a behavior that is executed as soon as the program runs. So you have to do everything else by starting from this. Okay? That's all you have to need to know. Okay? It has to be exactly like that. Public static void main, and then in parentheses string open bracket, close bracket, space. The args doesn't have to be named args, but that's conventional. Close parentheses, open curly bracket, and then whatever you want to do inside here, inside the block. Remember I told you about that? So inside here, you're going to want to do stuff. And what we're going to want to do first is we're going to want to make a new XBus controller. And we're going to call it XBus controller. And this should be pretty self-explanatory. You're setting a new, field, which is that. And it's an XBus controller field. It's called XBus controller, and it equals a new XBus controller. Great. Works the same way. That should be self-explanatory, I hope. And then from the XBus controller, like I showed you from the system, you can access out. You can show values. And remember, we're declaring stuff, so we end it with a semicolon. And that's it. That's all you have to do. And now stuff actually works. You can go ahead and press the run button over here. Wait for my computer to load. And there we go. As you see in the console down here. The controllers, I never wrote buttons. Should have wrote buttons here. But yeah. And the Xbox controller is the color white. So say we change this and I was going crazy or something, and I made it like pink and green, and maybe I had like 970 buttons, right? You change the values, run it again, it works. Awesome. You guys just made your first program and you learned how to represent objects in Java. Congratulations guys, and I'll see you in the next video.